guys, let's do this one. What's going on? This is the Club of the Man 1993 coming at you for another video in my retro review series for all the SummerSlams. I am continuing to go back and watch all the SummerSlams in WWE history. We are on SummerSlam 1995 now. Now, this probably was one of the worst years for the World Wrestling Federation. As I kept saying, the mid '90s were not that great of years for the WWF. It was around a time where Monday Nitro was or Nitro or whatever it was debuted for WCW, and WCW was just really kicking the WWF's butt in ratings and whatnot. And more talent had left the WWF to go to WCW. Lex Luger actually left not too long after this SummerSlam. He did make an appearance randomly in the main event. I don't know why. So the talent was very thin. Like, there wasn't really much talent at all on this roster. We had still some, but not many. And the depth of talent is what really hurt this show. This show, I mean, there was a couple matches. There was one classic. Another match, it feels a little underrated and gets overlooked. I mean, there was no story to it, but I still thought it was a fun match for what it was. Everything else, completely forgettable. And last year's main event, SummerSlam 1994, Undertaker versus Undertaker, was bad. This one, I'm not sure which one was worse. This one or last year's main event. But it'll be a judge, get right to it. As this may be also the worst SummerSlam of all time, which I've heard may be the worst one of all time because of the thin talent. As far as the show itself, I said again, it might be the worst. I don't know. We'll have to see in upcoming years. But to me, I feel like I've seen worse. I feel like WrestleMania 9 may have been worse than WrestleMania 27 or Royal Rumble 2015. I'm not sure, but this definitely, so far, is definitely the worst one I've seen, I'd say, in my opinion. This event took place on August 27th, 1995. And unfortunately, it was at the Civic Arena in my hometown, to quote Mick Foley, despite he said this in Columbus, Ohio. Right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania! Yeah, but this pay-per-view did take place at Civic Arena, which no longer exists, in my hometown, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on August 27th, 1995. There was a couple of segments throughout the night with Dean Douglas backstage. It was like, chalkboard segments or something like that. I don't know what the heck it was about, but just want to make a note there. That's what it was about. Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler were on commentary. And of course, Jerry played a role in a match later on in the show. Now, we do see some future stars also appear in the show also, but of course, this is around a time where they were all very green and in, a gimmick that was not what they would turn out to be in upcoming years, but we'll get to that shortly. We opened up with a match, Hakushi taking on the 1-2-3 Kid. This was not that bad of a match at all. I thought it was a solid opening match, a great high flying style with the 1-2-3 Kid and Hakushi. Hakushi especially, I was very impressed with, because he was like a great high flyer, just made it look so smooth and so easy. The problem was there really wasn't any story behind it. So it was like a match you expect to see like on Raw or whatnot, but for what it was, I'd say it was solid. But for a pay-per-view match, it was what it was pretty much. But still a solid opener, I'd say, for the most part. We had that. The second match of the show was Bob Holly taking on making his SummerSlam debut, Mr. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, or as we all know him later on as Triple H, the Game, the Cerebral Assassin, and a pretty darn good writer for the NXT brand, as we all know. But this was, of course, Triple H. So he was just called Hunter Hearst Helmsley, of course, before being shortened to Triple H years later. He had that, rich Prince gimmick, like that William Regal type gimmick to him, pretty much. It didn't really fit him at all. He was still pretty green in the ring. This match with Bob Holly was okay. It wasn't anything too special to write home about. But yeah, this obviously was not a gimmick meant for him at all. I mean, it was good at least for a mid-card run, but he had definitely had to, tweak his character to definitely become, the badass he eventually became and the great, heel authority figure that he is today as well. So I mean, he wins by pinfall. Of course, we all know he would go on to get crushed. I'm sorry, at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania 12, he was talking. He mentioned this to Sheamus in their feud. He says, I tried to jump on the biggest guy I could find. You know what happened? I got crushed, and that's actually exactly happened to him at WrestleMania 12 when he faced Ultimate Warrior. But yeah, this is you'd see. Some people started off with not that great gimmicks, but eventually ended up being big time stars, and that's exactly what happened to Triple H. Then we had the Smoking Guns, Bart and Billy taking on the Blue Brothers, Jake and Eli, with Uncle Zebekai, who actually was Zeb Coulter, actually. Of course, this is under a different name. This match is really boring. Not a great tag match at all whatsoever. The tag titles weren't defended on this show. I can't remember who they said that the tag team champions were. Oh, it was Yokozuna and Bret Hart, I believe, or Owen Hart, one of the two, were the tag team champions at this time. They said that a match between them and the Smoking Guns would have been a lot better than this, because the Blue Brothers weren't really that great of heels at all. So this match was kind of boring and pointless. We then had a match. It was Barry Horowitz taking on Skip with Sonny. Apparently, the Horowitz wins chance was a big thing. Skip just had Horowitz's number, having Sonny his corner, which most of the time she just mobbed the camera and just just showed off, and played typical heel role. She when she saw, of course, that Horowitz was a threat to win, she tried to throw in the towel for Skip, but the referee said nope, not going to happen, pretty much. And then eventually Horowitz won. Of course, Sonny was just pulling off pure valet heel tactics. Not happy at all about the decision, but Horowitz won. Got a good pop. Match was average, what it was. Again, this wasn't a match that was really pay-per-view worthy. So that was that. Now, last year's SummerSlam, I raved about how I thought the first women's match at SummerSlam was a pretty darn good match. With Alundra Blaze taking on Bull Nakama, or Nakama, I can't remember her name now. But I thought that was a very good women's match for SummerSlam. That was not the case, though, this year, as we had Alundra Blaze, still the WWF Women's Champion, taking on Bertha Faye with Harvey Whippleman. Bertha Faye kind of reminded me of Nia Jax is still okay today, but a very green version of Nia Jax. She didn't seem like she was that big of a threat at all. Wasn't really booked too well, in my honest opinion. It even says, in the notes I read for some critics and whatnot, that she wasn't really built to be that big of a threat. She was more so of a joke right now. So when she beat Alundra Blaze, it was like no one could take it seriously, because they didn't really think she was that much of a threat. It's not someone that people would want to see win the title. She's just a big woman, but she wasn't really anything special in the ring. Like Bull Nakano was actually good in the ring. Bertha Faye wasn't really that great at all. Of course, after the match, also the only part that I found entertaining was after the match, where I think the announcer tried to put his arm on Bertha Faye, and Harvey Whippleman, her love interest, was in her corner, and Harvey Whippleman says, "Hey, you can look, but you can't touch." Wonder whose theme song included that years later. Miss Nikki Bella, as I shall mention. Woo! Never mind. Getting a little carried away there. But yeah, not a great women's match on the show. This match also wasn't really that great, I felt. It was The Undertaker with Paul Bearer taking on Kama with Ted DiBiase in a casket match. I don't know if it's, DiBiase continuing to target The Undertaker after, last year's SummerSlam, when it was Undertaker versus Undertaker. After The Undertaker had been out for about 7 months with a back injury. The Undertaker was getting better, and he was starting to gain more popularity. But this casket match they didn't really utilize the casket too well. There wasn't really too many teases of, getting them in there. It was just like, at one point, both. I mean, what I did like, though, I find interesting, they don't do this anymore today, was they did have a camera angle from inside the casket. And there was a time where both Kama and Undertaker fell into the casket. So at first it looked like a draw, but Kama was trying to get out of the casket before Undertaker could, with the lid still shut. But it just Undertaker still came out though, like as the lid's about to close, and Kama got thrown in there, and Taker won the match. Of course, it's his match pretty much. Wasn't anything too special. Again, they didn't really utilize the casket too well in the match. Undertaker won though, which is what should happen. Then we had this match. Now, as you remember from a couple years ago, we had a match with Jerry the King Lawler taking on Bret the Hitman Hart after Bret won King of the Ring. Well, this feud was still somewhat continuing throughout the years, if you know what I mean. And this was Jerry Lawler pretty much having his evil dentist, Isaac Yankem, DDS, pretty much do his dirty work. For those of you who don't know, Isaac Yankem was actually Kane. It was Kane before he became the Big Red Demon. The gimmick was meant to be a little more, comical and whatnot, so people actually were kind of getting into it a little bit, but not really that much. But Glenn Jacobs at the time was not really, one of the best wrestlers. He improved a lot, though, when he found his niche as the Big Red Monster, Kane years later. I mean, they're trying to play out the story here. She's just doing Jerry's dirty work, and Jerry was on commentary, pretty much just like, playing favoritisms towards Yankem. He got out a couple times, and was on the by the apron, just like trying to cheer on Yankem, even tried to get involved in the match a couple times. With that, and then when the referee wasn't looking, both Yankem and Lawler started attacking Hart, which was all in a DQ. They left Hart like all tangled up in ropes, like hung by the neck, which he sold it pretty well, but he eventually broke him free. He would start limping towards the back. He was obviously going to go get more revenge. So I don't know. I guess his feud did continue afterwards. I'm not sure. All right match. Hart even mentions apparently in one of his books that he was not a fan of how he was treated, in the mid 90s, especially in 1995, because he wasn't the champion anymore, but they weren't really, at least booking him well like he is, a champion contender, especially in a match like this. So it was again, it wasn't like completely a failure, but it was just all right. And of course, me, I'm not a big fan of like DQ finishes or anything like that at like a big event like SummerSlam or WrestleMania. So the match it was what it was. Hart won by DQ, as I said before. Of course, the match had definitely saved this show from being a complete flop, though, which is I didn't really give this show a good grade still, but this match definitely saved it from being even lower than it already was the Intercontinental Championship ladder match, and it was a rematch from WrestleMania 10. Shawn Michaels, the Intercontinental Champion, taking on Razor Ramon. These two put on a hell of a match in the first ever ladder match at WrestleMania 10. They both are just great wrestlers, great talents. In real life, they were great friends, so they really knew each other well and worked very well, using the ladder very well. This match, I think we pretty much got the same exact thing out of it. It was just a classic. It was just, golden wrestling with a ladder, if that makes any sense at all whatsoever. Of course, Shawn Michaels won the match, and afterwards it looked like Razor Ramon was going to, maybe turn heel on him, but he just took the Intercontinental title to hand to him out of respect, and they both raised each other's arms. Apparently, rumors have it, though, it was supposed to be Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid Justice, though, at WrestleMania. I mean, at SummerSlam 1995. But with how thin the town was, they knew they needed to have a good match on the show to definitely, have something, to fall off from it. So that's why they did a rematch of the ladder match, which, this probably could have been the main event, because what we got in the main event was just terrible. Oh, man, this match. So, it was the WWF Championship match. Diesel, who was, still the face champion, I do believe later on down the line, I think he turned heel. I think he was a heel, because, he was, a big guy. He was probably, at the time, one of Vince's, golden boys, since Lex Luger was almost gone, which he made an appearance in this match. Again, I don't remember why. I think Diesel thought first that he was coming after him, but he was actually coming after Mabel and Mo. Sir Mo was the Mabel's tag team partner for Man on a Mission, who was in his corner in this match. But yeah, he was like, like the golden boy Diesel was, but he didn't work as well as a babyface. He always meant to be a heel, which I believe he left next year for WCW and went on to, make a name for himself more in WCW, definitely. And just got, more credibility to him. This match was not that good, though. As I said how many times, I was never really a fan of Mabel at all, or Viscera, Big Daddy V, whatever you want to call him. Never really was that impressed with him. Just slow, boring. I thought he was. I guess they only put him in this match in the main event because they want someone fresh, but of course just shows him he's a typical big man. Of course, the slow count towards the. I'm never really a big fan of slow counts, pretty much, because referees do faster counts whenever they're ready. I mean, they get tired out and beating up and whatnot, but so I wasn't really a fan of the slow count or anything. It's a really boring match. You see it, wasn't that great. This match, or definitely Undertaker vs. Undertaker, was probably one of the worst main events of all time. Not just in SummerSlam history, but on any pay-per-view for the most part, in my honest opinion. At least a lot of people again say WrestleMania 11 from 1995, of course, was one of the worst. I felt that was an average show. It wasn't really dreadful. Even the main event, it was Lawrence Taylor taking, I can't remember who it was. Because that's the year WWE needed the WWF needed to literally draw on celebrities just to make their events popular, because they didn't have really the talent. Even at least that match was somewhat passable. At least wasn't a 5-star match, but I say it was an average match that actually was decent match. I wouldn't mind I didn't mind watching it all. This match I wouldn't want to go back and see. I would not recommend it either. Diesel retains the championship as need be. I believe it goes on to face Bret Hart at Survivor Series. I'm not sure. I'm not going to do a Survivor Series retro review series, well, unless I change my mind somehow, but that's just not in the game plan. But yeah, that's it for this SummerSlam. Again, not really a great show at all, as you see. Just a lot of matches. Some of them were somewhat passable, but they were just matches that weren't meant for a big pay-per-view show like this. I mean, I know things were different back then as they work today. The expectations being set. But yeah, this was definitely very poor talent. Not too many no names on this show. Some people did stand out a little bit, Yakushi, who what was his name again? Hakushi. Yeah, him and 1-2-3 Kid had a decent match. This is the beginning for Triple H and Kane also, of course, in just bland gimmicks that weren't working for them at all whatsoever. So because of that, the ladder match can save this show, but because of all of that, I give this show a D+ for SummerSlam 1995, a D+. What grade would you give SummerSlam 1995? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And as always, first click by like and subscribe or regard to come to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at DemandAirboy93. And with that, guys, I will see you all later. So until then, guys, have a great night and enjoy your Memorial Day tomorrow if I don't get to talk to you guys then. So until then, guys, peace out.